Number 1. Officer Stephen Flood. On September 18, 2018, Stephen Flood, a 69-year-old deputy with the Horry County Sheriff's Office in South Carolina, and a fellow officer, Deputy Joshua Bishop, were assigned to transport two women, 45-year-old Wendy Newton and 43-year-old Nicolette Green, to a mental health facility. Both women had been involuntarily committed, however. Their families contended that they were not violent and were seeking help for mental health issues. Newton suffered fear and anxiety and had gone to the hospital seeking medicine. Green was committed by a mental health counselor her family says she had never seen before. The state law authorizes the sheriff's department to detain and transfer people for involuntary committals. Despite numerous road closures due to flooding from Hurricane Florence, Flood chose to drive the transport van through a flooded roadway in Marion County. As the van approached a barricade, National Guardsmen lowered it, as they did for all emergency vehicles. After a brief exchange with them, Flood drove into the floodwaters. After driving through, the van was swept away by floodwaters and became pinned against a guardrail. Flood and fellow deputy Joshua Bishop managed to escape the vehicle, but the two women were locked up in the back of the van. Efforts to rescue them were unsuccessful, and the van lacked an emergency escape hatch, complicating rescue attempts. Bishop tried and failed to shoot out the lock. The van soon filled with water and drowned the women, making them two of the hurricane's 9 victims in the state. The deputies were later rescued from atop the vehicle, and both were fired the following month. Flood was arrested and charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of reckless homicide. In May 2022, a jury found him guilty on all charges. However, due to legal considerations preventing multiple punishments for the same offense, the involuntary manslaughter charges were later dropped. He was sentenced to 9 years for each count of reckless homicide, to be served consecutively, totaling 18 years in prison. The detainees' families sued the county, blaming Flood for his decision to push through the rising waters and Bishop for failing to stop him. Those suits were reportedly settled for a total of $6.3 million in August 2021. As of 2025, Flood has served approximately 3 years of his 18-year sentence. He is currently incarcerated in a South Carolina state prison. Flood has filed an appeal for a new trial, arguing that certain evidence presented during his trial, such as drone footage of the flooded area, was prejudicial and misrepresented the conditions at the time of the incident. Number 2. Officer Jessie Hernandez. Jessie Hernandez was 35 years old at the time of his conviction. He had previously served as a police officer for the Corpus Christi Police Department and later with the Robstown Police Department in Texas. His tenure in law enforcement included incidents involving the use of deadly force while on duty. In one instance, he shot and murdered a Rottweiler during a service call. In another, he fatally shot a motorist whom he claimed was trying to murder him by using a vehicle as a weapon. He was eventually terminated from police service and transitioned into work repossessing property. The incident that led to his most serious criminal charges occurred in September 2013. On that day, 2 Selma police officers responded to a domestic disturbance call involving him and his wife, Roseanne Hernandez. A witness had called and reported seeing Hernandez drag a screaming woman, later identified as Roseanne, back into the home owned by his parents. Officers Tiffany Kirum and Sergeant Jesse Balderramas were dispatched to the scene to investigate. Upon arrival, Officer Kirum attempted to engage with Hernandez, but the situation escalated quickly. During the response, Jesse Hernandez produced a firearm and opened fire on the officers. Officer Kirum was shot in the face, while Sergeant Balderramas was shot in the leg. Both officers survived the shooting, although Kirum sustained serious facial injuries. After the incident, Hernandez was arrested and charged with multiple offenses. The primary charge brought to trial was aggravated assault of a public servant in relation to the shooting of Officer Kirum. He was convicted on that charge by a jury in 2014. During the sentencing phase of the trial, the prosecution, led by District Attorney Nicholas LaHood and Prosecutor Jason Goss, sought a life sentence. The prosecution presented testimony from Roseanne Hernandez, who who described a pattern of abusive behavior by her husband. She testified that he had previously shoved her into a wall while she was 6 months pregnant, resulting in a broken clavicle. The state also played a recorded jail phone call between the couple in which Hernandez questioned her loyalty after learning she had spoken with the district attorney's office. In the call, he expressed concern about the outcome of the trial, saying, "I'm probably going to go to jail now." In his defense, Hernandez's mother, Laverne Hernandez, testified about his past experiences in law enforcement. She stated that he had a flat affect when discussing past shootings, including one in which he shot a man in the head during a confrontation involving a vehicle. She expressed concern over his emotional detachment when recounting those events. The jury ultimately sided with the prosecution. Hernandez was sentenced to life in prison for the shooting of Officer Kirum. During the sentencing, he was formally discharged from any affiliation with law enforcement agencies. The ruling marked a permanent end to his career in public service. After sentencing, Hernandez did not make a public statement in court. There were no further remarks from him addressing the victims or their families directly. Following the conviction, Hernandez was transferred to the custody of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. He began serving his sentence at the William G. McConnell Unit, a state prison facility located in Beeville, Texas. As of May 2025, he remains incarcerated there and is not eligible for parole due to the nature of his sentence. He has served approximately 11 years in prison. He has made several appeals, but no successful appeal has been recorded. Number 3. Officer Michael Dotro. Michael A. Dotro was 40 years old at the time of his sentencing in 2017. He served as a police officer with the Edison Police Department in New Jersey for over 10 years. During his tenure, Dotro was the subject of multiple internal investigations, including at least 11 excessive force complaints. These incidents led to administrative actions, such as mandated psychological evaluations and shift reassignments. On May 23, 2013, in the early hours of the morning, he approached the Monroe Township residence of his supervisor, Captain Mark Anderko. At the time, Anderko's wife, 2 children, and his 92-year-old mother were all asleep inside the house. Dotro, acting alone, threw an ignited Molotov cocktail inside the home, starting a fire. The family escaped unharmed. Investigators later revealed the attack was allegedly motivated by retaliation after Anderko had reassigned Dotro and ordered him to undergo a fitness for duty evaluation following his 11th excessive force complaint. The Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office conducted an extensive investigation, led by Detectives Donald Heck and Christopher Panisi. Evidence collected included surveillance footage, forensic analysis, and witness testimonies, which resulted in Dotro's arrest. He was also implicated in multiple other misconduct cases. These included slashing the tires of a fellow officer, cyberbullying a colleague, purchasing and distributing hard substances while in uniform, and tampering with police records. He also faced charges for tampering with witnesses and retaliating against a North Brunswick police officer. In 2017, during his trial, Dotro entered a guilty plea to multiple charges: first-degree attempted murder, second-degree aggravated arson, second-degree official misconduct, third-degree conspiracy to tamper with a witness, and fourth-degree conspiracy to retaliate. On September 7, 2017, Middlesex County Superior Court judge sentenced Dotro to a total of 20 years in state prison. The sentence was subject to the No Early Release Act, requiring Dotro to serve at least 85% of his term, approximately 17 years, before becoming eligible for parole. The judge described Dotro's actions as a betrayal of his duties, calling his time in uniform a complete fraud. He also emphasized the seriousness of launching an attack on a home known to be occupied, referring to the act as depraved. All his sentences were ordered to run concurrently. A 5-year period of parole supervision was also imposed following his eventual release. Additionally, the court imposed restraining orders to protect the victims involved. Following his conviction, he was formally discharged from the Edison Police Department. Dotro's demeanor in court was largely restrained. He offered no apology to the victims during sentencing and did not make an extended public statement. No remorse was recorded in court transcripts, and his attorney, Robert Norton, did not provide a post-sentencing comment to the media. In 2023, he applied for sentence reduction credits under the Public Health Emergency Credits Act enacted in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. His application was denied by the New Jersey Department of Corrections, citing his projected release date of July 12, 2034. As of May 2025, Michael Dotro is incarcerated at East Jersey State Prison in Rahway, New Jersey. He has served approximately 7 years and 8 months of his 20-year sentence. His earliest eligibility for parole will be in 2034, following the completion of the mandatory 85% of his sentence as required by NARA. There is no public record of any final statements made by Dotro at the time of his sentencing. Number 4. Officer Jovanny Crespo. Jovanny Crespo was 26 years old at the time of his sentencing in May 2024. He served as a patrol officer with the Newark Police Department in New Jersey. Crespo had less than 2 years of experience at the time of the incident in January 2019. He joined the department after completing more than 6 months of training at the police academy, where he was instructed in the lawful use of force. At the time of the incident, he was partnered with another officer who also had limited experience on the force. On the night of January 28, 2019, Crespo was on duty with his partner, Officer Eric Ortiz, when a dispatch call went out regarding a Chrysler 300 reportedly fleeing a traffic stop. The officers believed that they saw a firearm inside the vehicle, prompting to a high-speed chase through the area of Clinton Avenue and Thomas Street. During the 5-minute chase, which was captured on both dashcam and body-worn cameras, Crespo exited the patrol vehicle 3 times. At each stop, he discharged his weapon at the vehicle. At the final location on Irving Turner Boulevard, Crespo fatally shot the driver, 46-year-old Gregory Griffin, and the passenger, 35-year-old Andrew J. Dixon. The chase concluded near the 54 Irvine Turner Boulevard, where both Griffin and Dixon were found with gunshot wounds. Griffin succumbed to his injuries the following day at University Hospital, while Dixon, who was struck in the face, survived the shooting, but had serious facial injuries. Throughout the chase, Officer Ortiz could be heard on video urging Crespo to remain calm. In May 2019, Crespo was indicted by an Essex County grand jury on 6 counts, including first-degree aggravated manslaughter, second-degree aggravated assault, and official misconduct. The trial commenced in April 2023 and went on for over 10 weeks. Prosecutors presented dashboard and body camera footage showing Crespo exiting his patrol car and firing at the fleeing vehicle. They argued that Crespo's use of deadly force was unjustified, as state guidelines permit such force only when there is an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. The defense contended that Crespo believed he saw a firearm in the vehicle and acted to protect himself and others. They also highlighted his limited experience and lack of supervision during the incident. On June 23, 2023, the jury convicted Crespo on all charges. He was taken into custody immediately following the verdict. On May 31, 2024, Superior Court Judge Michael Ravin sentenced Crespo to 27 years in prison, 20 years for aggravated manslaughter, and 7 years for aggravated assault, to be served consecutively. Additionally, Crespo received concurrent 6-year terms for official misconduct. Under the No Early Release Act, he must serve 85% of his sentence, making him eligible for parole after approximately 22 years and 11 months. During sentencing, Crespo's family, including his mother and sister, pleaded for leniency, stating that Crespo thought that he was doing the right thing. Crespo wept during their statements and stood to briefly address the court. He apologized to the families of the victims and acknowledged the jury's verdict. The judge stated that while Crespo was young and relatively inexperienced, he had been extensively trained and determined that his actions reflected an abhorrent abuse of police power. The judge emphasized the need to abolish the shoot first, ask questions later mentality among law enforcement officers. As of May 2025, Jovanny Crespo is incarcerated at a New Jersey state prison. He has served approximately 1 year of his 27-year sentence and remains ineligible for parole until he has completed nearly 23 years of his term. Number 5. Officer Noe Juarez. Noe Juarez, who was 47 at the time of his conviction in January 2015, was a veteran officer with the Houston Police Department serving for over 20 years. Prior to his law enforcement career, Juarez served as a U.S. Marine and was a Gulf War veteran. In 2009, he was recognized as one of HPD's Officers of the Year for his work with the Central Division Tactical Unit. At the time of his arrest, he was also employed as a security manager at a Houston nightclub. Between 2006 and 2011, Juarez became involved with an international trafficking organization led by brothers Efran and Sergio Grimaldo. The organization, supplied by the Los Zetas cartel in Mexico, distributed thousands of kilograms of hard substances across various U.S. cities, including Jackson, Mississippi, Pensacola, Florida, New York City, Detroit, Michigan, Baltimore, Maryland, Dover, Delaware, and Houma, Louisiana. Juarez's role involved providing sensitive law enforcement information, such as running license plates and sharing police tactics. He also supplied vehicles, body armor, and firearms, including semi-automatic handguns and assault rifles, some of which reached senior cartel leaders in Mexico. In one instance, Juarez was recorded delivering assault rifles while in uniform outside the nightclub where he worked. The investigation was conducted by the Drug Enforcement Administration offices in New Orleans and Houston, the Federal Bureau of Investigation in Houston, and the HPD Internal Affairs Division. Evidence included secretly recorded videos and testimonies from informants. Juarez was arrested in April 2015 following a superseding indictment charging him with conspiracy to distribute 5 kilograms or more cane hydrochloride and conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of a drug trafficking offense. On January 15, 2015, Juarez was convicted by a federal jury in the Eastern District of Louisiana on both charges. The conspiracy to distribute hard substance conviction carried a sentence of 10 years to life imprisonment, while the firearms conspiracy charge carried a maximum penalty of 20 years imprisonment. On June 29, 2016, U.S. District Chief Judge sentenced Juarez to 365 months, 30 years and 5 months in federal prison. Following his conviction, Juarez was discharged from the Houston Police Department. As of May 2025, Juarez has served approximately 8 years and 11 months of his sentence. He is currently incarcerated in a federal prison facility. Number 6. Officer Braulio Gonzalez. Braulio Gonzalez, who was 48 at the time of sentencing, served as a lieutenant in the Miami-Dade Police Department. He joined the force in 1999 and was assigned to the Special Response Team, a specialized unit that handled high-risk operations such as hostage situations, warrants, and fugitive apprehensions. Over his nearly 2-decade career, Gonzalez was involved in numerous operations and had been credited by colleagues for his tactical capabilities. However, internal records revealed he had previously faced multiple allegations of domestic misconduct involving former partners. He'd been allowed to keep his job despite multiple allegations that he'd repeatedly beaten and abused his former lovers. According to internal police files, he was cleared of those accusations. In September 2018, Gonzalez was arrested following a report made by a 14-year-old young girl known to him. The girl disclosed to a psychologist and later to a Florida Department of Children and Families interviewer that Gonzalez had touched and abused her inappropriately on multiple occasions while she was between the ages of 8 and 10. She further stated that during the first incident, Gonzalez pointed a firearm at her head and threatened to harm a family member if she spoke about it. A second girl, related to the first victim, also came forward and reported similar abuse. Following these disclosures, Miami-Dade police initiated an arrest, and Gonzalez was taken into custody. The charges against him included armed kidnapping and multiple counts of lewd and lascivious assault. He was held without bond at the Miami-Dade County Jail and remained in custody throughout the legal proceedings. His trial began in early 2023. The two young victims testified in court, detailing their experiences. They told the judge that Gonzalez had shattered their lives. The jury deliberated for just 15 minutes before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. Gonzalez's defense attorney maintained that his client was innocent throughout the trial. The defense argued that the alleged incidents did not occur and sought to discredit the testimonies through cross-examination. At the sentencing hearing in March 2023, the presiding judge imposed a life sentence. Prosecutors emphasized Gonzalez's pattern of manipulative and controlling behavior, arguing that his conduct demonstrated he led a double life, one as a police officer and another marked by private abuse. During the hearing, the mother of the victims also addressed the court, stating that Gonzalez had caused harm over many years and had consistently evaded consequences until now. Gonzalez, who was present in court, chose not to speak. He declined to offer an apology or comment on the victims' statements. His attorney requested a 25-year sentence, highlighting Gonzalez's law enforcement service, the lives he had assisted in saving during his career, and supportive testimony from his wife and two fellow officers. However, the judge sided with the prosecution's recommendation for life imprisonment. Following the sentencing, Gonzalez was officially discharged from the Miami-Dade Police Department. The department issued no formal statement beyond confirming the termination of his employment. As of May 2025, Gonzalez has served 6 years and 8 months in custody total, including about 4 years and 6 months in pre-sentencing detention and about 2 years and 2 months in post-sentencing incarceration. He is currently incarcerated at the South Florida Reception Center, a state correctional facility in Miami-Dade County. He remains incarcerated and has not been released. He has continued to maintain his innocence through his legal representation. Number 7. Officer Dennis Perkins. Dennis Perkins was 47 at the time of his sentencing in January 2023. He served as a deputy with the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana for 17 years. He held a high-ranking position, including command of the department's Special Response Team. Perkins was married to Cynthia Perkins, a middle school teacher. Both were arrested in 2019, following an investigation into multiple assault crimes involving children. In October 2019, authorities received a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which led to the discovery of explicit images and videos linked to the Perkins residence in Denham Springs. Subsequent investigations uncovered evidence of numerous offenses, including the production of inappropriate videos and images of children, video voyeurism, and the assault of children. One particularly disturbing act involved Dennis Perkins contaminating desserts with bodily fluids, which were then served to unsuspecting individuals. The couple's actions went on undisclosed for several months in 2019, and it involved children under the age of 13. The investigation led by the Louisiana Attorney General's office resulted in the seizure of thousands of images and videos depicting illicit activities. During his arrest, Dennis Perkins attempted to destroy evidence by discarding his cell phone into a body of water. Both Dennis and Cynthia Perkins were taken into custody and faced a combined total of over 150 charges. On January 3, 2023, Dennis Perkins entered a guilty plea to multiple charges, including second-degree assault, battery of a child under the age of 13, video voyeurism, production inappropriate images and videos of children, and mingling harmful substances. As part of the plea agreement, all remaining charges were dismissed. At the sentencing hearing, victims and their families were present. Some gave statements in court. One victim addressed Perkins directly, stating that she hoped he would live in fear for his safety each day in prison. prosecutors emphasized that the plea deal spared the victims from having to testify in open court. Following his guilty plea, Perkins was immediately terminated from the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office, and he was sentenced to 100 years in prison without the possibility of parole, probation, or appeal. During the sentencing hearing, he expressed remorse, stating, "I'm sorry. It's been more than 3 years living in a box, and it's not about me. I just want to make this statement. Jesus Christ has forgiven me, and I'm grateful for that. And I hope and pray that." Cynthia Perkins, his ex-wife, previously pleaded guilty to related charges and was sentenced to 41 years. She even agreed to testify against Dennis Perkins if the case had proceeded to trial. Additionally, in December of 2021, Melanie Curtin, the ex-lover of Dennis Perkins, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after being found guilty of aggravated assault and video voyeurism in the 2014 assault of an unconscious woman. As of May 2025, Dennis Perkins is incarcerated in a Louisiana state prison, serving his 100-year sentence. He has served approximately 2 years and 4 months of his term. Given the nature of his sentence, he is not eligible for parole or early release and is expected to remain in custody for the remainder of his life. Number 1. Officer Michael Valva. In the early hours of January 17, 2020, emergency responders arrived at a residence in Center Moriches, Long Island, following a 911 call from Michael Valva, a 45-year-old former NYPD officer. Valva reported that his 8-year-old son, Thomas, had fallen on his way to the bus, and he banged his head and lost consciousness. He also reported that he was giving him CPR, trying to revive him at the time of the call. Upon arrival, paramedics found Thomas unresponsive, with a body temperature of 76.1 degrees Fahrenheit, indicating severe hypothermia. Despite resuscitation efforts, Thomas was pronounced dead at the hospital. Before the incident, Valva and his 3 sons lived with his fiancée Angela Polina and her 3 daughters. Subsequent investigations unveiled a harrowing pattern of abuse. Evidence, including home surveillance footage, revealed that Thomas and his brother Anthony, both diagnosed with autism, were subjected to prolonged mistreatment. They were forced to sleep in an unheated garage without access to basic necessities. On the day of the tragic incident, temperatures had gone below freezing, and Thomas and his brother Anthony had spent the night in the garage of their home, with no heat, no bathroom access, no mattress, and no blankets. After waking up on the cold cement floor of the garage, Thomas had an accident and soiled his pants. When their father, Michael Valva, arrived where they were, he was seen on a video screaming at Thomas, forcing him outside and hosing him down with cold water, leading to him collapsing. Despite Thomas's evident distress, Valva delayed seeking medical assistance for over an hour. He never called 911 immediately. These children's abuse extended beyond the fatal incident. School officials testified that both boys often arrive at school hungry, cold, and in soiled clothing almost every day. They were often observed scavenging for food and displaying signs of physical neglect. Valva was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and multiple counts of endangering the welfare of a child. His fiancée, Angela Polina, was also arrested and faced similar charges. During the trial, Valva's defense highlighted his law enforcement background, but the prosecution emphasized the severity and duration of the abuse. In December 2022, Valva was convicted on all counts and sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. The Suffolk County District Attorney described the treatment of Thomas and his brother as nothing short of evil. His wife was also sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. As of April 2025, Michael Valva has served approximately 2 years and 4 months of his sentence. He is incarcerated in a New York State correctional facility. His earliest possible release date, if he gets considered for parole, would be in 2047, when he would be 68 years old. Number 2, Officer Daniel Holtzclaw. In the early morning of June 18, 2014, after a full-day shift in northeast Oklahoma, 57-year-old Jovanny Ligens was driving home when she was stopped by 39-year-old Officer Daniel Holtzclaw. The officer had just closed from work and was driving home in his patrol vehicle. When he made the traffic stop, he logged off his patrol car computer and never notified his dispatch team to run a record on the woman he had stopped. Daniel had been lurking around that area, looking for victims, especially vulnerable women to assault. He approached Jovanny, and after numerous back-and-forth interrogations, he reportedly asked her to pull down her underwear and went ahead to force her into carrying out an oral sodomy act on him in the back of his patrol vehicle. Jovanny begged him to stop, but he refused until he was done. While the act was happening, she tried not to look at his badge, as there was a possibility that he could have shot her dead if she knew his name. After the incident, Jovanny went to the police station and filed a report. When Officer Daniel resumed work the next day, he was taken in and questioned by two detectives, Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory. He denied all accusations and feigned ignorance of the crimes. The detective took his swabs for DNA tests, and he was stripped of all his police accessories, including his uniforms and badges, and was placed on paid administrative leave. He was later released due to no clear evidence against him. They investigated further into his case and came across numerous pieces of evidence, including 16 counts of assault reports leveled against him. They also came across a case similar to that of Jovanny that was not taken seriously when reported. He also drove the female victim to a secluded area and forced her to perform an oral act on him. The detectives contacted the victim, and she gave them details that they matched and connected with Officer Daniel. During the investigation, over 13 women came forward to testify against him. On August 21, 2014, Daniel was arrested just a few weeks after Jovanny's courageous police report, and he was charged with multiple assault counts. Investigators revealed that Daniel, who was born in Guam, joined the Oklahoma City Police Department and patrolled the northeast sector of the city, an area predominantly inhabited by African American residents. Between December 2013 and June 2014, he used the authority of his uniform and badge to prey on vulnerable women, many of whom had prior criminal records or were involved in substance use, believing they would be less likely to report his misconduct. He would routinely carry out background checks on different women to know which of them suited his list of victims. Daniel's ways of operation involved stopping women under the guise of routine checks. Then he would force them into carrying out intimate acts by threatening to arrest them or reminding them of their criminal histories. His victims ranged in age from 17 to 57. In December 2015, after a month-long trial, Daniel was convicted on 18 of 36 counts, including 4 counts of first-degree assault, battery, and forcible oral sodomy. During his trial, a victim recounted how he forced her into carrying out the act on him while she was handcuffed in the hospital after she was arrested for substance abuse. She believed that no one would believe her if she had reported stating that all policemen would always work together. The jury recommended a sentence totaling 263 years. On January 21, 2016, the judge sentenced Daniel to 263 years in prison, effectively ensuring he would spend the rest of his life incarcerated. His appeals have been consistently denied. In 2019, the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals upheld his convictions and sentence, rejecting claims of prosecutorial misconduct and insufficient evidence. His family continues to assert his innocence and has indicated plans to pursue further appeals in federal court, a process that could extend over several years. As of April 2025, he has served approximately 9 years of his sentence. He is currently incarcerated at the Lexington Assessment and Reception Center in Oklahoma. Number 3, Officer Bobby Cutts, Jr. On June 14, 2007, Jessie Marie Davis, a 26-year-old woman who was 9 months pregnant, vanished from her home in Lake Township, Ohio. She was last seen shopping at a local grocery shop. Her mother, who was the last person she spoke with, visited her home the next day and discovered just her 2-year-old son, Blake, alone in the house. She noticed the home settings and saw signs of struggle, including overturned furniture and bleach stains. The 2-year-old boy reportedly told her that his mommy broke the table and his mommy was inside the rug, prompting an immediate and extensive search for Jessie. Many individuals, including members of Texas EquuSearch, volunteered to search for the missing lady. At the time of the incident, Jessie and 26-year-old Officer Bobby Lee Cutts Jr. were in a relationship. Officer Bobby was the father of Blake, as well as the unborn child she was carrying. The investigation for her whereabouts quickly focused on Officer Bobby. Initially, he denied involvement or knowing where his girlfriend was, but on June 23, 2007, he led authorities to Jessie's body in a wooded area of Hampton Hills Metro Park. She had been wrapped in a comforter and left in the park. Officer Bobby was arrested and charged with the murders of Jessie and her unborn daughter, whom she had planned to name Chloe. During his trial, which began on February 4, 2008, he testified that he accidentally murdered Jessie during an argument, claiming he elbowed her in the throat during a struggle. He admitted to panicking, attempting to revive her, and then decided to dispose her body with the help of his friend, Maisha Farrell. On February 15, 2008, the jury found Bobby guilty of the aggravated murder of his unborn child, the murder of his girlfriend, aggravated burglary, gross abuse of a corpse, and child endangerment. On February 27, 2008, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His accomplice, Farrell, pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice and complicity to gross abuse of a corpse, and she was sentenced to 2 years in prison. As of April 2025, Bobby has served approximately 17 years of his sentence, and he is incarcerated at the Marion Correctional Institution in Ohio. Number 4. Officer Matthew Kinne. On May 19, 2019, 40-year-old Officer Matthew Kinne, a former Oxford police officer, drove his marked patrol car while he was off duty to Oxford, Mississippi, to the home of 32-year-old Dominique Clayton with the intention to murder her. He entered through an unlocked door and found Clayton asleep. He stepped out and went back to his vehicle to retrieve his department-issued 9mm Glock firearm. When he got back, he shot her once in the back of the head. After the murder, Kinne then returned to the Oxford Police Department's horse barn, where he left his phone to create an alibi and deceive investigators. He also sent Clayton a text message to suggest she was still alive. Clayton's 8-year-old son discovered her body the following morning. Investigators quickly identified Kinne as a suspect due to his romantic involvement with Clayton. He was arrested on May 20, 2019, and fired from the Oxford Police Department shortly thereafter. He admitted to having an affair with Miss Clayton, but denied knowing who had murdered her. Surveillance footage released confirmed his presence at the scene. After a lot of evidence was leveled against him, he confessed to the murder during a subsequent interrogation. During the interrogation, it was discovered that Kinne, who was legally married and the victim had been in a 1-year relationship. He provided her with money and other benefits, and even bought a car for her. Reports say he wanted to end the relationship, but Miss Clayton threatened to tell his wife about their secret affairs, and he decided to murder her. Though the victim's family believed that it was Miss Clayton who tried to break off the relationship but couldn't. In August 2019, he was indicted on capital murder charges. To avoid the death penalty, Kinne pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. A federal judge awarded $2.2 million in damages to Clayton's 4 children, citing Kinne's actions as intentional, wanton, willful, and reckless. The judgment included $1.2 million in compensatory damages and $1 million in punitive damages. As of April 2025, Kinne has served approximately 5 years and 11 months of his life sentence. He is incarcerated in a Mississippi State Prison. Number 5. Officer Wayne Couzens. On the evening of March 3, 2021, 33-year-old Sarah Eberhart disappeared while walking home. At around 9 p.m. that day, Sarah left a friend's house in Clapham, South London. She walked along the A205 South Circular Road across the Common on her way to her Brixton Hill home. While walking, she called and spoke to her boyfriend on her phone for about 15 minutes and agreed to meet him the next day. A police dash camera captured her movements at this time as she walked on Poinders Road. A few minutes later, she was stopped by 49-year-old former Metropolitan Police Officer Wayne Couzens. Officer Couzens had already closed from his work that day and was driving a vehicle he had rented a few days earlier. After he stopped Sarah, he showed her his police warrant card before handcuffing her. Reports say that he probably claimed that he was arresting her for breaching COVID-19 guidelines. CCTV camera showed that after handcuffing her, he asked her into the vehicle and drove to Kent. Later that night, the camera also captured him driving her to a secluded area in Dover after he had transferred to his personal car. Around midnight, he assaulted and murdered her using his police duty belt. After the murder, he purchased some drinks from a Dover petrol station and then drove to Hodes Wood, where he had private land property, and kept Sarah's body, and drove back to Dover, where he switched back to his rental car and returned it. After returning the car, he disposed Sarah's phone and other items. Later that day, Sarah's boyfriend tried calling her as they agreed to meet up but couldn't reach her. After many failed trials, he reported her missing to the police station. Days after the murder, in a bid to cover up his tracks, Couzens reportedly told his senior colleagues that he was suffering from stress and would no longer be able to carry his firearm. After this, he purchased petrol and 2 large builder's bags and went home. He returned to his landed property where he hid Sarah's body and set it on fire. Afterwards, he packed the remains inside the bag and disposed it. The following day, he reported himself ill from work, handing in his equipment, including his police belt and handcuffs. Sarah's disappearance sparked widespread concern and a significant police investigation. Days later, her remains were discovered in a wooded area near Ashford, Kent, a few miles from Couzens's land property. After searching properly, the investigation led to the arrest of Wayne Couzens. Initially, during the interrogation, he claimed that he did not recognize Sarah, but later he confessed that a gang demanded that he deliver another girl after he underpaid a street girl who rendered sexual services to him, but that was a lie. The investigation found no evidence of a gang, and his story was full of holes. It was a made-up excuse. An inquiry led by Lady Elish Angiolini found that Couzens had a history of indecent exposure incidents that were not adequately investigated. He had been reported for indecent exposure just days before Sarah's murder, but no action was taken at the time. The inquiry concluded that these missed opportunities allowed Couzens to continue his predatory behavior unchecked. On September 30th, 2021, after hours of trial, Wayne Couzens was sentenced to a whole life prison term for the kidnapping, assault, and murder of Sarah Eberhart. This means he will spend the rest of his life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge described the case as devastating, tragic, and wholly brutal, emphasizing the abuse of his position as a police officer to commit these crimes. He kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered Sarah Eberhart for his own selfish sexual gratification. Not because someone forced him to, not because he was mentally ill, but because he chose to do it. In addition to the life sentence, Couzens was later sentenced to 19 months in prison for 3 counts of indecent exposure, which occurred before Sarah's murder. These sentences are to be served concurrently with his life sentence. As of April 2025, Couzens has served approximately 3.5 years of his sentence and remains incarcerated at HMP Franklin, a high-security prison in County Durham, England. Number 6. Officer David Carrick. For nearly 2 decades, 48-year-old David Carrick, a serving officer in the Metropolitan Police, carried out a series of heinous sexual offenses against multiple women. He was popularly known as a serial offender. His position of authority allowed him to exploit and intimidate his victims, committing at least 85 serious offenses, including 48 assaults against women. He carried out most of these assaults in his Hertfordshire home, where he lived, and all took place while he was still a serving officer. His crimes, which spanned from 2003 to 2020, remained unchecked despite multiple allegations against him over the years. Carrick remained in his role, highlighting significant shortcomings within the police force. Carrick joined the Metropolitan Police in 2001 and was assigned to the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command. Over the years, he used his authority to manipulate and control his victims. He met many of his victims through dating apps, presenting himself as a trustworthy officer. Once in a relationship, he subjected them to degrading acts such as false imprisonment, assault, and forceful intimate relations. Some victims were locked in a cupboard under the stairs, others were whipped with belts, and some were subjected to more inhumane treatments. He controlled various aspects of their lives, dictating what they wore, ate, and who they could communicate with. In some instances, he held a gun to a woman's head during the assault. Carrick's actions were calculated and manipulative, often using his status as a police officer to silence his victims after each attack. Despite multiple allegations over the years, he continued work as a police officer. He came to the attention of police over 9 separate incidents between 2000 and 2021. However, these were not adequately investigated, allowing him to continue his predatory behavior. In 2016, a complaint was mishandled, leading to Carrick being re-vetted by the Met. During the investigation, he escalated his offenses. In 2021, a woman came forward with allegations of assault, and he was arrested. Subsequent investigations uncovered the deep nature of his crimes and how many years it has been going on undetected. Over 12 women victims came forward to testify against him. In February 2023, he pleaded guilty to 49 charges against 12 women, resulting in 36 life sentences. The judge then ordered that he serve a minimum of 30 years before being eligible for parole. During his trial, Carrick showed no emotion as he was sentenced, and the judge highlighted his lack of remorse and the devastating impact of his actions on his victims. As of April 2025, Carrick has served approximately 2 years of his sentence. He will not be eligible for parole until at least 2053, at which point he will be 76 years old. He is currently incarcerated in a UK prison. Number 7. Officer Nicholas Tartaglione. In the early hours of April 11, 2016, Nicholas Tartaglione, a 56-year-old former police officer from Briarcliff Manor, New York, orchestrated a brutal attack that led to the deaths of 4 individuals over a substance-related dispute. Nicholas, who was a bodybuilder and had been illegally selling steroids, suspected Martin Luna of stealing approximately $250,000 intended for a hard substance purchase. In a bid to avenge and get back his money, he set up a meeting with Luna. He lured him to the Liquid Lounge, a bar in Chester owned by his brother. Unaware that the meeting was a setup, Luna arrived at the meeting place accompanied by his nephews, Miguel Luna, his niece's husband, Urbano Santiago, and a family friend, Hector Gutierrez. Immediately after arriving, their meeting quickly turned deadly. Nicholas and his associates kidnapped all 4 men. Martin Luna was taken to Nicola's property in Otisville, where he was restrained, beaten for over an hour, and ultimately murdered with a zip tie. The other 3 men were forced to witness Luna's murder before they were executed with single gunshots to the back of the head. Their bodies were buried in a shallow grave on Nicholas's rented property. The victims remained missing until December 2016, when the FBI's Hudson Valley Safe Streets Task Force discovered the mass grave. Nicholas was arrested shortly thereafter and charged with multiple counts, including murder, kidnapping resulting in death, kidnapping conspiracy, and narcotics conspiracy. He claimed that he was innocent and didn't know about the incident, as he was only a businessman who ran an animal rescue farm. During the investigation, one of his colleagues fatally shot himself as the FBI tried to arrest him. Another accomplice, Joseph Biggs, testified against him and was sentenced to 16 years in prison after pleading guilty. Nicholas was convicted in April 2023 and sentenced in June 2024 to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. His case drew additional attention due to his brief time as a cellmate of the popular Jeffrey Epstein in 2019. Although he was not in the cell at the time of Epstein's death, he was considered a significant witness in the investigation. As of April 2025, he has served approximately 10 months of his life sentence. Currently, Nicholas Tartaglione is incarcerated in a federal prison. Number 8. Officer Henry Solis. On the evening of March 13, 2015, a fight broke out between 23-year-old Salome Rodriguez Jr., a truck driver, and 27-year-old Henry Solis, a former probationary Los Angeles Police Department officer who was off duty at that time. The incident occurred outside a bar in Pomona, east of Los Angeles, after a little altercation between the two. As the incident escalated, Solis pursued Rodriguez, who was then fleeing the scene on foot, and fatally shot him multiple times until he died. After the shooting, Solis fled the country and went to Mexico with the help of his father, who dropped him off across the U.S.-Mexico border. CCTV cameras captured both of them walking through the border. After fleeing, he became a fugitive and was placed on the FBI's most wanted list, and a manhunt was carried out in search for him. During this period, he was also fired from his police work. In May 2015, after 2 months of being on the run, Solis was apprehended in Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, where he was staying with some of his relatives, and he was extradited to the United States to face charges. During his trial, his defense attorneys argued that Solis acted in self-defense in the fatal shooting, but his claims were rejected. He also indicated that Solis was a good human who had spent years serving his country. While reading the impact statement, the family of the victim expressed how his decision that day changed the course of their life. Rodriguez's father stated that he took his son's life with no mercy, but he's now seeking mercy. After the trial, Solis was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 40 years to life in prison. The victim's family expressed that they wanted him to be convicted of first-degree murder, but they were pleased with his second-degree murder conviction. His father, Victor, was also convicted by a federal jury in El Paso for lying to the FBI about helping his son escape. He was sentenced to 3 years probation and fined $1,000. As of April 2025, Henry Solis has served approximately 9 years of his sentence, and he is currently incarcerated in a California state prison. Number 9. Officer Michael Neely. 50-year-old Michael Neely was a former police officer with the Manford Police Department in Oklahoma. In November 2019, he and his superior, Police Chief Lucky Miller, traveled to Pensacola Beach, Florida, to attend a law enforcement conference. They shared a hotel room at the Hilton Hotel during their stay. On the evening of November 10, 2019, hotel guests reported loud noises coming from Neely and Miller's room. Witnesses described hearing laughter, yelling, and a voice repeatedly shouting, "Stop it, Mike!" The commotion escalated before suddenly ceasing. A maintenance worker, responding to noise complaints, entered the room and found Neely on top of Miller, who was lying motionless on the floor. They called the police to intervene. Upon arrival, the deputies pulled Neely off Miller and observed that Miller had no pulse and exhibited signs of a severe beating, including a swollen right eye. Neal was taken to Sacred Heart Hospital for treatment of injuries to his nose and lip, which he sustained after hitting his head on the floor while he was pulled off of Miller. His right hand was also swollen and red. The medical examiner concluded that Miller died from blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation due to strangulation and smothering. Prosecutors noted that at least one of the blows delivered by Neal had the impact equivalent to a car accident. During the trial in Escambia County, Florida, Neal's defense argued that he was so intoxicated that he accidentally fell onto Miller and was unable to get off due to his drunken state at the time of the crime. Neal declined to testify in his defense. In March 2021, a jury found him guilty of second-degree murder. On April 29, 2021, he was sentenced to life in prison, with credit for 536 days already served. The motive behind the altercation remains unclear, though it occurred during an alcohol-fueled dispute. The incident shocked the community, as both men were known to be friendly and respected law enforcement officers. As of April 2025, Neal has served approximately 5 years and 5 months of his life sentence. Number 10, Officer Miles Bryant. On the evening of July 26, 2022, 16-year-old Susana Morales went missing after informing her mother that she was walking home from a friend's residence in Norcross. She never made it home that day. For several months, she was never found, and missing person posters were made to help facilitate the search. Her skeletal remains were discovered 6 months later by Matthew Gilbert, a man who was off-roading in a wooded area near Decula, approximately 20 miles from her last known location. None of her clothing or personal items were found. Dental records and DNA evidence identified the remains as being the 16-year-old girl, and medical examination suggested that she might have been murdered the same day of her disappearance, though they were unable to determine how she died due to the condition of her remains. Some suggested that she was intoxicated with a substance, as there was no way she could have followed or done anything with her kidnapper if she was conscious. Investigations revealed that Miles Bryant, a 22-year-old former Doraville police officer who lived near the road to Susana's home, abducted her, discarded her phone, and transported her to the remote location where he attempted to assault her, murdered her, and left her body where it was later found. Initially, Bryant was arrested on suspicion of assault, murder, and other offenses, and was denied bail by the judge, stating that he was a threat to the community. After being held in custody for the offenses, he was fired from his police job. During the investigation, it was revealed that Bryant had no previous relationship with the victim. He just thought she would be a good target. Bryant was charged, and following his trial, evidence presented included incriminating internet searches on Bryant's mobile devices, such as inquiries about how long it takes for a body to decompose and how an identification can be verified through dental records. Additionally, a firearm registered to Bryant was located near the victim's remains. He had previously reported this weapon stolen shortly after her disappearance. During the trial, Bryant showed little or no remorse as the victim's family read out their impact statement with tears in their eyes. He reportedly stated, "I just want to apologize to everybody. To the victim's family, that's it." A lot of individuals, including his ex-girlfriend, was called to testify. Also, his longtime friend testified that months after the incident, Bryant was caught on camera stalking her and showed up uninvited to her home. Bryant's former cellmate also testified that Bryant told him that he would not be charged since they had nothing against him, stating that there was no blood or fluid to use to link him to the murder. After the whole trial, the jury found Bryant guilty of malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping, and filing a false report of a crime. He was acquitted on the charge of attempted assault. The presiding judge sentenced him to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 12 months for the false report. The victim's family thanked the judge for giving out a befitting sentence, though none of it could bring back their loved one. As of April 2025, Bryant has served approximately 10 months of his life sentence. He is currently incarcerated at the Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison in Jackson, Georgia. Number 11. Officer Kenneth Bluew. On the evening of August 30th, 2011, Jennifer Webb, a 32-year-old woman who was 8 months pregnant, was found deceased in her car near a drainage ditch in Buena Vista Township, Michigan. The scene was staged to appear as self-harm, with Webb's body hanging from an extension cord tied to the roof rack of her vehicle. However, forensic analysis revealed that she had died from manual strangulation and not hanging. The investigation quickly focused on 37-year-old Kenneth T. Bluew, a former officer with the Buena Vista Township Police Department in Michigan and the father of Webb's unborn child. Evidence against Bluew was substantial. DNA and fingerprints linked him to the crime scene, and his behavior during the investigation raised suspicions. It was determined that Bluew had murdered Webb to avoid the personal and professional consequences of their relationship becoming public. He was married at the time he got Webb pregnant. He then attempted to cover up the crime by making it look like Miss Webb decided to do it to herself. In November 2012, Bluew was convicted of first-degree premeditated murder, assault of a pregnant individual with intent to cause miscarriage, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. During the trial, the victim's mother read her impact statement, stating that Bluew had broken all the trust of everyone who once believed in him, and reportedly told him that his actions would haunt him for the rest of his life in his prison cage. During his trial also, his wife filed for a divorce. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for the murder conviction, 65 to 100 years for the assault conviction, and 2 years for each of the firearm convictions. These sentences were to be served concurrently. As of April 2025, Kenneth Bluew has served approximately 12 years of his sentence. He is currently incarcerated at the Alger Correctional Facility in Munising, Michigan. Number 12. Officer Aaron Dean. In the early hours of October 12, 2019, in the Fort Worth neighborhood, 28-year-old Atatiana Jefferson, who was inside her home, was fatally shot through her bedroom window by a police officer conducting a welfare check. The incident raised profound questions about police conduct, accountability, and the sanctity of one's home. Atatiana Jefferson was a dedicated pre-med graduate from Xavier University, known for her intelligence and compassion. She had moved back to Fort Worth to care for her ailing mother and was deeply involved in her community. On the night of the incident, she was playing video games with her 8-year-old nephew, Zion. They had left their front door open to air out smoke from burnt hamburgers. A concerned neighbor noticed the open door and called a non-emergency police line, prompting officers to check on the residents. Responding to the call around 2:30 a.m., Officer Aaron Dean, a 34-year-old white male who had joined the Fort Worth Police Department 6 months earlier, approached the house with his partner, Officer Carol Darch. Without announcing their presence, they entered the backyard of Jefferson's residence, and upon seeing movement through a window, perceiving a threat, Officer Dean shouted for Jefferson to show her hands, and within seconds, fired a single shot through the window, striking her. Jefferson had retrieved her legally owned firearm, likely believing there was an intruder outside. Her nephew, Zion, witnessed the entire event. Jefferson died at the scene. The body camera footage released by the police showed the rapid sequence of events, leading to public outcry. 2 days after the shooting, Dean resigned from the force, just before his arrest on the murder charge. He was released on a $200,000 bond pending trial. The trial faced multiple delays due to legal complications and the COVID-19 pandemic. When it commenced in December 2022, the prosecution argued that Dean acted recklessly, failing to identify himself as a police officer and not giving Jefferson a chance to comply. The defense contended that Dean believed he was confronting a burglar and acted in self-defense upon seeing a firearm. During the trial, the nephew testified that her aunt took her firearm from her purse and walked to the window holding it at her side while looking out the window before she was shot. The other officer who was at the scene on the day of the event indicated that they could only see Jefferson's face from the window before the gunshot was fired. The jury found Dean guilty of manslaughter, a lesser charge than murder, acknowledging the lack of intent but recognizing the negligence. During the trial, Jefferson's sisters recounted how good their sister was and how she was just enjoying her life in her home, where no one would have expected her life to be in danger, especially not in the hands of a civil servant who had taken the oath to serve and protect. On December 20th, 2022, Dean was sentenced to 11 years, 10 months, and 12 days in prison. The sentence's length symbolically matched the age of Zion, the little nephew who witnessed the whole tragic incident, and the date of the incident. As of April 2025, Dean has served approximately 2 years and 4 months of his sentence. He is currently incarcerated in a Texas state prison and may be eligible for parole after serving half of his sentence around mid-2028. At that time, he will be approximately 41 years old. Number 13, Officer Roy Oliver. On the evening of April 29, 2017, a group of teenagers, including 15-year-old Jordan Edwards, attended a house party in Balk Springs, Texas. Around 11 p.m., as the gathering was winding down, someone in the neighborhood sent a 911 call to give reports of underage children drinking. This led to a prompt response from 2 police officers, Officer Roy Oliver and his partner, Officer Tyler Gross. Upon their arrival to the party, the 2 officers entered the residence to locate the homeowner. While inside, they heard what they believed to be gunshots outside. The sound of the gunshots created panic, and many attendees fled the party. Jordan Edwards, his elder brother, and his companions entered their vehicle to leave. Jordan's brother was the one driving the car. Officer Gross approached the car, breaking the passenger side window in an attempt to stop it. Immediately, Officer Oliver retrieved his patrol rifle and fired multiple rounds into the vehicle, striking Jordan in the head. He was rushed to the nearby hospital and was pronounced dead. The officers also took his elder brother to the station for questioning. He was held at the police station till the next day. During the investigation of the incident, the Balk Springs Police Department stated that the vehicle the children were driving was reversing aggressively toward the officers, prompting the use of lethal force. However, body camera footage later revealed that the car was moving away from the officers, contradicting earlier claims. This discrepancy led to the firing of Officer Oliver from the police department after being placed on administrative leave. The Dallas Police Department still investigated the shooting, and days later, a warrant was issued for Officer Oliver's arrest. A few days later, he turned himself in to the police, and later that day, he got released after bailing himself with $300,000. Months after his bail, the case proceeded to trial in Dallas County, marking a rare instance where a police officer was charged with murder for an on-duty shooting. During the trial, family and friends recounted how lovely Jordan Edwards was. He was described as a beacon of positivity and ambition. He was remembered by his school principal as always smiling and by his football coach as a coach's dream. Jordan had aspirations that extended beyond the football field. His untimely death not only robbed his family of a beloved son, but also deprived the community of a young man who was on his way to making a significant contribution. On August 28, 2018, the jury found Roy Oliver guilty of murder. The following day, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison, though the prosecutors demanded for him to serve 60 years behind bars. This conviction was significant, as it was the first murder conviction of a police officer in Dallas County in over 40 years. As of April 2025, Roy Oliver has served approximately 6.5 years of his 15-year sentence. He is incarcerated at the James J. H. Byrd Unit in Huntsville, Texas. There's a possibility that he may be released soon, having served half of his sentence. Number 14, Officer Marcus Eberhart. On April 11, 2014, in East Point, Georgia, former Police Sergeant Marcus Eberhart and his partner, Corporal Howard Weems, responded to a domestic disturbance call. Upon their arrival, they encountered 24-year-old Gregory Towns outside his girlfriend's residence. On seeing the police officers, Towns decided to flee the scene. He was running until he stopped a bit to catch his breath, but he was apprehended by the officers and was handcuffed and ordered to walk to their patrol vehicle. When Towns, who was overweight and had underlying health conditions, struggled to comply due to exhaustion, the officers used their tasers on him multiple times. Despite being handcuffed and unarmed, Towns was shocked with the taser at least 14 times over a 30-minute period. In between those periods of torture, Towns begged numerous times for them to stop so he could catch his breath, but they refused. He eventually became unresponsive, and when the paramedics arrived, they pronounced him dead at the scene. An autopsy revealed that Towns died from hypertensive cardiovascular disease caused by physical exertion and conducted electrical stimulation. The excessive use of the taser, particularly in drive-stun mode, was a significant contributing factor to his death. In December 2016, Marcus Eberhart was convicted of felony murder, aggravated assault, and violation of oath by a public officer. During his trial, Towns' girlfriend explained that he regretted ever calling the police that day on his boyfriend, stating that she would no longer put her trust in the police department or even the court of justice again. Officer Howard Weems also expressed deep remorse for his actions and deeply apologized to the victim's family. He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, reckless conduct, and violation of oath by a public officer. He received a 5-year sentence, with 18 months to serve in prison and the remainder on probation. Weems was sentenced under first offender status, meaning his felony charges could be dropped upon successful completion of his sentence. Officer Marcus Eberhart was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. As of April 2025, Eberhart, currently incarcerated in a Georgia state prison, has served approximately 8 years and 4 months of his sentence. Towns' family also settled a civil lawsuit with the city of East Point for $1 million, the maximum allowed by the city's insurance policy. Officer Derek Chauvin. On May 25, 2020, a bystander's cell phone captured a harrowing scene on a Minneapolis street. A white police officer knelt on the neck of George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, for over 9 minutes. He repeatedly cried out for help, stating that he couldn't breathe. All his pleas went unheeded until he couldn't plead again. On the day of the incident, 4 police officers responded to a call from the Cup Foods grocery store employee, who suspected that Floyd had used a counterfeit $20 bill to make payments at their convenience store. Among the 4 officers who responded was 45-year-old Derek Chauvin, a member of the Minneapolis Police Department with over 19 years of service. In those years, he had accumulated over 18 severe complaints against him. Upon their arrival at the convenience store, they found Floyd sitting in a nearby vehicle. They confronted him and forcefully removed him from the car. The CCTV cameras did not show Floyd resisting arrest or trying to struggle with them. Officer Chauvin restrained Floyd on the ground, pressing his knee into Floyd's neck while he was still handcuffed and lying face down on the street. 2 other officers joined in restraining him, while the last officer prevented people from interfering. Floyd cried out for help many times, stating that he couldn't breathe, and even called out to his mother for help. Despite Floyd's cries for help and bystanders' objections, Chauvin maintained the pressure until paramedics arrived, and Floyd was pronounced dead. An autopsy revealed that he died from cardiopulmonary arrest due to prolonged asphyxiation. The video of Floyd's death quickly went viral, leading to Chauvin's arrest days later. In April 2021, after a highly publicized trial, a jury found Chauvin guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. He pleaded guilty to federal charges of violating George Floyd's civil rights. In June 2021, Judge Peter Cahill sentenced him to 22.5 years in prison, citing his abuse of authority and the particular cruelty shown to Floyd. Additionally, he admitted to a separate 2017 incident where he used excessive force on a 14-year-old boy. In July 2022, a federal judge sentenced him to 21 years in prison for the crime, to be served concurrently with his state sentence. After the verdict, he was transferred to a federal facility in Tucson, Arizona. Months after being transferred to the prison, he was attacked and stabbed 22 times by a fellow inmate, John Tucker, who was a former member of a Mexican mafia gang. Tucker said he had considered carrying out the act months ago and would have murdered him immediately, if not for the quick response from the prison guards. He told FBI agents that he attacked Chauvin on a Black Friday as a symbolic connection to the Black Lives Matter movement. Following the attack, Chauvin was transferred to a low-security federal prison in Big Spring, Texas, for his safety. As of April 2025, Derek Chauvin has served nearly 4 years of his sentence. Given the concurrent nature of his state and federal sentences, he is projected to be released in 2037 at the age of 61. George Floyd's family was also given $27 million as a settlement to resolve a wrongful death lawsuit. Officer Nouman K. Raja. In the early hours of October 18, 2015, a routine drive home turned fatal for 31-year-old Corey Jones, a housing inspector and a church drummer at the Bible Church of God in Boynton Beach, Florida, where his grandfather is a bishop. He also performed with the Future Presidents band group. On the night of the incident, he had just concluded a project in Jupiter, Florida, and was driving home when his vehicle broke down. He made a call to his friends and family. His brother offered to come pick him up, but he refused, indicating that he needed his car to run an errand the next morning in church. His bandmate also came to assist, but they couldn't get the car running, so he left after Jones decided to call a tow truck. He was still on the phone. While waiting for roadside assistance, when he was confronted by Officer Nouman Raja, a 38-year-old officer who had joined the Palm Beach Gardens Police Department a few months earlier after serving with the Atlantis Police Department. On the night of the incident, Raja was conducting surveillance in an unmarked van, dressed in civilian clothes. He was also not wearing a body camera, and his vehicle did not have a dash cam. Around 3:15 a.m., Raja approached Jones' disabled car without identifying himself as a police officer. He confronted him. Jones, who was still on the phone with the roadside assistance, was holding a firearm that he had legally purchased for personal protection. Officer Raja asked him if he was good, and Jones responded affirmatively. Noticing some movement, Officer Raja then shouted for Jones to raise his hands. Jones replied, "Hold on," and within a few seconds, multiple gunshots were heard. At the sound of a gunshot, Jones started running to save his life, but Officer Raja fired 3 more shots. The last 3 shots struck Jones, resulting in his death. After the incident, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, with assistance from the FBI, conducted an investigation. Officer Raja was arrested and his bail was set for $250,000. After making bail, Raja was released from the Palm Beach County Jail and placed under house arrest. A variety of conditions of pre-trial release, including GPS monitoring and surrender of Raja's passport, were imposed. He was put on administrative leave, and subsequently, his employment was terminated. Evidence revealed that Raja had not identified himself as law enforcement and had acted aggressively, leading Jones to believe he was being attacked. Jones' firearm was also found at the scene, undischarged. Forensic evidence indicated that Jones had attempted to flee, discarding his weapon, and was shot in the back. To all the accusations, Raja claimed self-defense, stating that Jones had pointed his firearm at him and also stated that he had called 911 before shooting. However, on January 17, 2017, audio evidence was released to the public. The recording was from Jones' call to the roadside assistance, and it captured all the details that happened that night. The public contradicted Raja's account, and it was also confirmed that the 911 call was made after he shot Jones. Officer Raja was charged with manslaughter by culpable negligence and attempted first-degree murder. During the trial in March 2019, Raja's defense claimed he acted in self-defense, believing Jones posed a threat. However, their claim didn't hold. On March 7, 2019, after an 8-day trial, he was found guilty on both charges. On April 25, 2019, Judge Joseph Marks sentenced him to 25 years in prison for each charge, to be served concurrently. This marked the first conviction of a Florida police officer for an on-duty shooting in over 30 years. He is currently incarcerated at the Wakulla Correctional Institution in Crawfordville, Florida. As of April 2025, Raja has served 6 years of his sentence. Given the nature of his conviction, he is scheduled for parole in 2044 when he will be 63 years old. Officer Andrew Buen. On June 10, 2022, 22-year-old Christian Glass was driving alone when his vehicle went off the road and got stuck in dirt near Silver Plume, Colorado. Unable to get it back on the road, he called 911 emergency services for help. During the call, Glass exhibited signs of a mental health crisis, expressing paranoia and fear. He told the 911 operator that he would love her to be on the line with him since he was frightened and would not be fine on his own. He also told the operator that he was worried and afraid of skinwalkers. When the officers arrived, including Deputy Andrew Buen, they asked Glass to get out of the car with their hands on their guns. Glass refused, saying that he was scared. Glass then told the officers he had a geology knife in the car. He offered to throw it out of the window in front of the officers, but they told him not to. He then kept the knife away and kept his hands where the officers could see it. Over the course of approximately 70 minutes, officers attempted to persuade Glass to leave the car, but he said the car was the only place he felt safe. He was seen praying and blowing out kisses from inside his car to the officers. As the night was getting darker and Glass was still inside his car, Officer Buen smashed the front window of the car. Another officer stood on top of his car, shining a flashlight on him. Eventually, they broke a window and tried using a taser on him. He was still holding a knife, and after Officer Buen repeatedly asked him to drop the knife, he then opened fire on him using his handgun. He was shot at least 5 times, resulting in his death. After the incident, the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department issued a statement stating that Christian Glass was argumentative and uncooperative, and he was attempting to stab an officer with the knife he was holding. Details of his death weren't revealed until a few months later, when the body camera footage showing Glass making a heart with his hands towards the officers from inside his car just before he was shot was released. Officer Buen was initially charged with second-degree murder and official misconduct. In his first trial in 2024, he was convicted of reckless endangerment, a misdemeanor, but the jury could not reach a verdict on more serious charges. A retrial in 2025 led to his conviction for criminally negligent homicide. During his trial, Christian's family all read their impact statements with tears, stating that they now live with anxiety because of the incident and will never be the same again. They stated that the killer shot Christian 5 times just to make sure that he was gone. After the family read their impact statement, Officer Buen was asked to speak, and he expressed deep remorse, stating that Christian deserved better and he was sorry for the event of that night. He pleaded that God should grant the bereaved family peace to endure the painful loss. He also expressed that he was willing to accept any punishment given to him. After his son's speech, Laura Buen, Officer Buen's mother, begged that the judge should have mercy on his son, stating that prison is a very dangerous place for police officers. However, the victim's family did not accept Officer Buen's remorse speech, especially after watching the whole body cam footage and seeing how he intentionally shot their loved one. The judge emphasized that the incident was a misuse of power, not a mere mistake. On Monday, April 14, 2024, after much deliberation, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Following his indictment, Buen was terminated from the sheriff's office. The Glass family reached a $19 million settlement with local authorities, which included dedicating a public park to Glass, a commitment to reform police responses to mental health crises. As of April 2025, Buen has served about 2 months of his sentence, leaving him with approximately 2 years and 10 months to serve. He is currently serving his sentence in a Colorado state prison. Thank you guys for watching. Over the years, I've had some good experiences with the police, and I have also came across some police officers who left me traumatized. Have you had any good or bad experience with a local police officer? Kindly leave a comment below.